Green Digest, a government information agency program that keeps you informed on what the administration has been doing that will create a better environment for citizens. I encourage you to stay tuned. In this week's presentation for the period March 14 to 20, 2015, security sector has made significant strides in its modernization drive. Better maternal care coming at the Georgetown Public Hospital. Foreign investments bringing benefits for Guyana's bauxite industry and for Guyanese. And 13th edition of Pacaraima Safari takes off on March 28. Despite efforts by the opposition to challenge the disbursement of resources from the Inter-American Development Bank security sector loan in the court, many strides have been made in the sector.
According to Minister Rohi, while the Guyana Police Force continues to come in for criticisms by the opposition, the very opposition continues to stymie the progress of the force. Under the Citizen Security Program, several initiatives have been implemented to address various areas of crime locally. Shedding some insight on the piracy situation, the subject minister said, the Guyana Police Force Marine Floating Base was commissioned to operate collaboratively with ranks of other law enforcement agencies. The Guyana Defense Force also has a similar floating base located at the mouth of the Pomeroon River. This $49.9 million capital investment was complemented by the procurement of a boat imported from the U.S. costing $71.4 million, in addition to 4 new vessels built at a cost of $4.9 million. In the interim, the ministry is awaiting resources to further engage the UK-based Capita Simmons Consultancy to implement 4 additional areas which are critical to building the institutional capacity of the Guyana Police Force. Further, the recommendations of the Discipline Services Commission are being implemented. Recent presentations by the Guyana Police Force, the Guyana Fire Service, and the Guyana Prison Service gave status updates on the progress each agency is making towards the full realization of those recommendations. The progress report was circulated to members of the National Assembly in June 2014.
Issues related to children and keeping them safe have raised the level of awareness in Guyana, and as such, government is moving ahead with programs and laws for their protection.
While strides have been made in Guyana to ensure children are protected, there remains much to be done. Institutions have been set up across the country, while several pieces of legislation have also been passed targeting the protection of children.
Children are being encouraged to go to school. That's a healthy development. No child should be prevented from going to school. We are saying we have a compulsory primary and saying that for child labor to be eradicated, every child must complete secondary education. And that is what we are working towards. We are gearing to ensure once you complete secondary education, you can enter into the world of work.
The TEL campaign is also producing results, with children responding whenever it is used. Many complaints have been received and dealt with. However, children are being urged to avoid situations where they can be at risk. Adults are also urged to be on the lookout for those situations.
We're saying that child protection is everyone's business, because everybody got to be able to watch out for a child, to be vigilant in dealing with children. If you notice something you're looking to right, you calling. So we have a 24-hour hotline service so that people can call in.
Children across the country are being urged to stay in school in several ways. They are provided with free school uniforms, free text and exercise books, free meals, and for each child in a public school, the $10,000 cash grant per school year for each child is the latest initiative introduced.
Another exciting experience of a lifetime will be staged as the Ministry of Tourism, in collaboration with the Guyana Tourism Authority, recently launched the 13th annual Pacaraima Mountain Safari.
The safari is set to depart on March 28 from the Gael gas station on Regent Street. Several vehicles and motorcycles are on board for the safari. The journey will see the safarians and their vehicles passing through rough lands in over 11 Amerindian villages, including Karasabay, Monkey Mountain, Tiparu, Rokumoto, and Orangewook, among others. They will also overnight at some of these indigenous villages.
It's an opportunity to experience the outdoors and the rugged mountains of the North Pacaraima. It allows you the opportunity to view scenic areas such as you've never seen. And so it's important for other new persons to join the safari. And we'll let you know how you can do that. You'll be stopping after reaching Karasabay, stopping briefly at over 11 indigenous communities that most of us do not normally visit, had it not been for the safari. Also, we'll be stopping by 3 major waterfalls, Chiyong, Lihilibar, and Orenduke, where the safari ends, actually. And on your way back, there's also the opportunity to visit Komu waterfalls in the Kanuku Mountains. Lots of wildlife and birds, indigenous communities, their lifestyle, and everything else.
The safari is usually organized by the Ministry of Tourism and GTA in collaboration with Rainforest Tours, the Region 8 and 9 Administration, and the Ministry of Local Government. It is sponsored by Gael Castro, MMC, Massey Distribution, GTNT, and for the first time, the Amazon Warrior Energy Drink.
Once again, we are happy to support this year's event, Pakuranga Mountain event. Supporting this event gave us the opportunity to give back to the drivers who have been supporting us, was through Gael and our Castro product, and a chance to support the Ministry of Tourism to drive and build a tourism package. And lastly, the proof that Castrol is more than just oil, it's liquid engineering.
We are happy to be associated with the safari trip, Pakuranga Mountain Safari trip. We think it's a great opportunity for Guyanese to be able to see the rainforest, see aspects of our country that we do not usually traverse. So it's good that GTA and your group has consistently organized this tour, and we are pleased to be associated with it because of its successes.
International participants from Jamaica, Suriname, Germany, the United States, and Trinidad and Tobago are also expected to join in the excitement.
The Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development handed over the approved 2015 budget for the 16 neighborhood democratic councils in Region 6. This will be the blueprint for the NDC's work program for the year.
The approved budget estimates was handed over to the neighborhood democratic councils, including Ordnance Fort Lance, Canefield Enterprise, Port Moran John, Wim, Lancaster, Blackbush Polder, Good Hope, number 51, Bushlot Avenger, number 52, number 57, and Crabwood Creek, Molson Creek, among others. The NDCs were urged to focus more on infrastructural maintenance, sanitation improvements, and other environmental issues, so as to maintain the Clean Up My Country initiative, for which $1 billion was expended by government.
We cannot justify having huge increases in utilities, huge increases in telephone bills, electricity, huge increases in transportation costs, meals and coming to meetings, when there is no commensurate increase in resources available to deliver services, core services to the people.
The ministry would have requested that some changes be made to the budget, one of which was the addition of more funds to embark on small projects that will have a direct impact on the lives of the people. These include support for education, scholarships, and award for good performing students, among other projects.
That where you can make a contribution to education delivery, for example, by simply giving recognizing and giving trophies to students who perform well, it has a greater impact because there are hundreds of students who identify with it, who associate with it, and they remember that, you know what, number 5274 presented 3 trophies to our school. They remember that. They remember, for example, that the Rosal municipality, they fixed the bridge to our school. It's small projects, but it is meaningful, it has a greater impact. They remember these things. They see a bus shed. It may cost about $1 million, perhaps a little less. And this bus shed is used primarily by school children and others that traverse the route. And it has the big emblem, Rose Hall Municipality. People remember that. The thing is getting value for money.
Under the Clean Up My Country program, the NDCs were provided with brush cutters and will be receiving tractors and trailers. Hence, a further adjustment was made to incorporate the maintenance and operations of these equipments. Earlier this year, the Region 2, 3, and 5 NDCs received their approved budget estimates.
Stay tuned, more of the Weekly Digest after the break.
Education is a fundamental building block for human development. 22 years ago, only 32% of our children had access to education. Today, education is accessible to every Guyanese child. Some 1,000 new schools have been built or refurbished throughout the country, and university education has expanded with a new campus in Berbice. The achievement of excellence in education is no longer confined to only students in Georgetown. Now, students from other regions are successfully topping the country and the Caribbean. These achievements and investments in education have brought positive recognition for Guyana and Guyanese everywhere. Our country has achieved the Millennium Development Goal of universal primary education. It is therefore not mere coincidence that education receives the largest allocation of the national budget. This is a demonstration of government's commitment to the development of students by preparing them for the future and helping their dreams become reality. Education, flying the flag of excellence as Guyana blooms.
The Amalia Fault Hydropower project is essential for a vibrant manufacturing sector. Under the flagship of the LCDS, Norway has transferred earnings from its partnership with Guyana, amounting to some $80 million to the Inter-American Development Bank to fund a part of Guyana's equity share in the project. High amongst the priorities will be ensuring the achievement of more affordable and more reliable energy. Government will deliver the Amalia Fall Hydropower project along with all of its attendant benefits. It is expected that there will be an achievement of financial closure and commencement of the construction of this project during 2015. A message from the Government Information Agency.
To ease traffic congestion along the East Bank Highway, which is a critical thoroughfare for accessing the city, plans are afoot to construct a new bypass linkage from Eccles to Diamond. Additionally, the feasibility study for the East Coast East Bank Bypass Road has been completed and government will be examining how to advance this huge project.
Ghana's crime-fighting capacity has been boosted tremendously. A state-of-the-art forensic laboratory, the formation of the country's first-ever Special Weapons and Tactical SWAT unit, and institutional strengthening are some aspects of the sector's reforms. Capacity building has played an important role as ranks have received training both locally and overseas to effectively deal with various aspects of crime solving. A message from the Government Information Agency.
You're with the Weekly Digest, a program produced by the Government Information Agency. As government strives to ensure its citizens benefit from a higher quality of health care, there has been continuous investment in the development of health facilities. In this light, $236 million has been allocated for the remodeling and extension of the maternity ward at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation.
A sword-turning ceremony as well as the unveiling of the plaque was conducted on March 13 at the hospital's compound. The main aim of the project seeks to create more bed space for pre- and post-natal wards. The addition of 60 new beds and the remodeling of the ground floor to house training rooms, offices, a neonatal clinic and doctors' on-call rooms, whilst the upper flat will contain 2 operating rooms, a birthing room, and the neonatal intensive care unit.
The government of Guyana committed to ensuring that resources are leveraged and allocated to address the national responsibility for the health of our mother, and further pledged to initiate the systematic changes necessary both at the central, national level and at the institution region level to raise the quality of maternal health care offered in Guyana and to create the environment for sustained improvements.
This project, which commenced on February 16, 2015, is expected to run for 1 year. The Chief Executive Officer noted that this project is a very important one since the facility at times becomes overcrowded due to the fact that the GPHC not only covers a large catchment area but is also the country's national referral hospital. By expanding its building, the facility will be able to provide a better quality of service. In 2012, the GPHC successfully delivered 5,665 babies, whilst in 2013, 5,790 were delivered. In 2014, the hospital recorded a total of 6,085 babies.
For example, if we have about 16,000 deliveries in this country, and as Mr. Khan said last year, there was a record 7,000. For the first time ever, 7,000 delivered in the Georgetown Hospital. Obviously, the others are being delivered somewhere else. And since we've seen a decrease in the under 5 mortality, it means that they are being delivered successfully. And since we're seeing a decrease in maternal mortality, it means that those others, that is the 16,000 minus the 7,000 who are so fortunate to end up in the Georgetown Hospital, it means something good is being done by healthcare providers below the tertiary level, below the level of the tertiary of the main institution. We need to recognize that and we need to applaud them.
The Health Ministry continues to work towards achieving the United Nations Millennium Development Goal number 5, which is to reduce by 3/4 between 1990 and 2015 the maternal mortality ratio. Also in 2014, $22.6 million was allocated for the establishment of maternity waiting rooms in Linden and Bartica to cater for antenatal high-risk mothers.
The bauxite sector in Guyana is now on solid ground, made possible through investments by large companies. This has resulted in much-needed revenue accruing to Guyana.
Total bauxite production for 2014 amounted to 1.6 million metric tons, of which BCGI produced 29%. With the expansion of its operations by the commissioning of the Kurubuka 22 mines in Region 10, the company expects to increase their annual production to a capacity of 2.3 million tons per year in 2015, which equates to a 30% increase. Despite facing challenges in the commodities market, investors remain committed to the development of the local bauxite industry.
This project has been in the making for several years, and we are also, as a government, and quite sure the people of Region 10 will be proud of the fact that the company has demonstrated a high level of confidence, not only in Guyana, but also in this part of Guyana, that it is expending in excess of $4.6 billion in developing this plan. Guyana is open to foreign investment, and we've always ensured that when foreign investors come, that they are given the necessary support, that there is an enabling environment.
The Bauxite Company of Guyana, BCGI, a subsidiary of Russian Aluminium Rusal, began the project to develop a new deposit, Kurubuka 22, located in Araima. For 2015, BCGI intends to improve the quality of supplied ore, construct roads leading to the mines, and a fuel terminal and a wharf. The first bauxite company will advance preparations and conduct a pre-feasibility study in 2015. Additionally, Bauxite plans to conduct a mass project and feasibility study to determine the suitability of the bauxite to be used as propans. Government can take some comfort that 10 years ago, facing challenging fiscal times and conditions to cease subsidizing the industry, it made the appropriate changes that today have seen the survival of the industry for the development of the local communities.
Stay tuned, more of the Weekly Digest after the break.
The Amalia Fault Hydropower project is essential for a vibrant manufacturing sector. Under the flagship of the LCDS, Norway has transferred earnings from its partnership with Guyana, amounting to some $80 million to the Inter-American Development Bank to fund a part of Guyana's equity share in the project. High amongst the priorities will be ensuring the achievement of more affordable and more reliable energy. Government will deliver the Amalia Fall Hydropower project along with all of its attendant benefits. It is expected that there will be an achievement of financial closure and commencement of the construction of this project during 2015. A message from the Government Information Agency. Ghana's crime fighting capacity has been boosted tremendously. A state-of-the-art forensic laboratory, the formation of the country's first ever special weapons and tactical SWAT unit, and institutional strengthening are some aspects of the sector's reforms. Capacity building has played an important role as ranks have received training both locally and overseas to effectively deal with various aspects of crime solving. A message from the Government Information Agency.
During Cabinet's statutory meeting at the Office of the President on March 17, several issues of national concern were discussed. The media was subsequently briefed on Cabinet's deliberations.
At its March 17 statutory meeting, Cabinet gave its no objection to contracts for the health and security sectors. Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon said that letters of invitation have been dispatched to several countries and internationally recognized groups, inviting them to field observer missions for the upcoming general and regional elections on May 11.
The bodies that were written or contacted included the governments of India and the government of South Africa. Among international bodies, the ones that have habitually been written to and have on many occasions participated in observer missions during elections in Guyana.
The United Nations, CARICOM, the Organization of American States, Commonwealth, UNISOR, Carter Center, the UK branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation are expected to send observer missions. These should be in Guyana from nomination day, April 7. The Cabinet Secretary said that government rejects claims that state funds are being used for elections campaigning.
The People's Progressive Party administration has always insisted wherein is the evidence. And 2015, the People's Progressive Party's insistence is no different. Let us indeed substantiate these claims with specific instances when such is established. I will say one thing, that the administration's position is unequivocal. We do not support, there is no policy whatsoever for the People's Progressive Party's civic administration to dishonor the law.
The head of the Presidential Secretariat refuted claims made by the main opposition leader, David Granger, that he was not consulted prior to the substantive appointment of Police Commissioner Sidal Prasad.
I know that President Ramotar been chasing behind David Granger morning, noon, and night. He ain't no easy cat to get in touch with. I could tell you that. He ain't no easy cat to get in touch with. And if it hadn't been for intermediaries, I think he might then, there was a TV, what was it, Untouchables? There was a TV program. He would have been the unfindables. The man is easy to find. But we have indeed worked out a modus. We have indeed worked out a modus. And the individual that we have frequently resorted to could attest to the fact that we have had to resort to his, we had to use his good offices to gain access to the leader of the opposition, not only for these purposes of consultation on the appointment, on the confirmation of Mr. Sidal Prasad, but on others.
Dr. Luncheon also revealed that the reconstruction of the Yamana destroyed by fire in 2014 will be commencing in the second half of this year.
And now for perspectives with Dr. Prem Mizir.
In estimating its chances of winning the May 11, 2015 general and regional elections, the PPPC must feel that it is standing on solid ground. This sense must be endemic within the party and the country for several reasons. Let me examine the reasons which will take us back to the year 1992. I know some people may argue that it is too far in time to reference to make political assessments, but policymakers have to know what the situation was like in Guyana in 1992 in order to know how far Guyana has come and where Guyana has to go in the future. At the time when it was turned out of office in 1992, after decades of authoritarianism, all the People's National Congress had to offer the people of Guyana was a diseased legacy, a legacy that destroyed the culture of hopefulness, and indeed a legacy that was an almost 3-decade-long train wreck. Large parts of the PNC dictatorship involved serious violations of human rights. For instance, the National Security Act suspended the right to habeas corpus and provided the PNC government with powers to constrain and detain Guyanese without trial for an undetermined period. In 1977, too, Part 2 of the National Security Act was reenacted to indeterminately detain Guyanese without bail and without trial. Guyana in 1992 also had the sleazy honor of being one of the poorest countries in the hemisphere, and it was this level of poverty as one of the factors that qualified it for the HIPC initiative. Guyana's entitlement to and becoming among the first group of beneficiaries of HIPC do not indicate that Guyana was on the brink of any economic takeoff in 1992, as the PNC's economic recovery program suggested. And also, there was the question of financial viability in 1992 that took almost a decade to achieve a healthy status. And so, when critics refer to the PPPC's tenure of 20-odd years, they fail to consider this 10-year period of insolvency, which slowed down development work. In effect, the PPPC government only had a little over 10 years to address development significantly, and not 22 years, by virtue of the insolvency, the financial insolvency. There is no doubt that the 2015 elections will revive people's negative perceptions of APNU, which really is the PNC. People will have a reawakening to the harmful consequences of the PNC's dictatorial way, including the fact that the PNC failed to win legitimately any election in this country. In sum, people will remember that the PNC dictatorship resulted in the abuse of political power, which in turn sapped the motivational and productive capacity of the Guyanese people. The result was that a reduced quality of the life infiltrated all dimensions of the society, which eventually produced a culture of social and economic stagnation. The PPPC's track record is favorable, given the diseased legacy it inherited from the PNC. And people will remember, too, the many capital projects of the PPPC government, such as the Amila Falls Hydropower Project, the Chedijagan International Airport expansion, and a number of civil aviation projects, etc., that the AFC APNU derailed in the National Assembly, of which the working class would have been beneficiaries. I thank you very much indeed.
And with those features, we have come to the end of this edition of Weekly Digest. But before we go, here's a repeat of the highlights. Security sector has made significant strides in its modernization drive. Better maternal care coming at the Georgetown Public Hospital. Foreign investments bringing benefits for Guyana's bauxite industry and for Guyanese. And 13th edition of Pacaraima Mountain Safari takes off on March 28th. Please note that Weekly Digest and other government information can be found on our website www.gina.gov.gy, or you can send us your comments and suggestions at ginagovgy@gmail.com. You could also read our newspaper, The Guyanese, online at theguyanese.gy. Join us again next week as we highlight more of the government's programs and policies that are aimed at enhancing the lives of citizens. I am Shanta Govardhan. Do have a safe week ahead. Goodbye.